middle-aged regulars and order a Jack and Coke, though normally, that is, back in our little coastal town in California, I would have had a Pinot Noir from the Santa Rita Hills or a nice full-bodied Zinfandel from Paso Robles. This wasn't the place for Pinot Noir, and I'm not knocking it, just stating the obvious. Beyond that, I was content to bend over my phone. I'd been engaged off and on all day tweeting on a financial forum run by the company I used to work for, and wait for Nola to tire out and come join me for a Valentine's Day drink, which in her case would likely be gin and tonic, a drink nobody, whether they were in Kingman or Irkutsk, could screw up. There was a woman sitting at the deserted end of the bar, 4 stools down from me. I'd thrown her a reflexive glance when I came in, but chose to give her space and sit 1 stool over from a knot of bearded regulars in plaid shirts, shorts, and work boots. This woman, late 30s, lean as one of the bums in the wash, jeans, running shoes, her face older than the rest of her, and a little rainbow-colored cap perched atop her dark, cropped hair. Wouldn't have been attractive to me even if I was in the market, which I wasn't. But I was there without my wife. It was Valentine's Day, and the single glance I'd given her must have meant more to her than me, because 3 minutes later, before I'd had more than a sip or 2 of my drink, she was right there standing beside me, so close we were practically touching. "My name's Serena," she said, trying for a smile she couldn't quite arrange. "Brandon," I said, and because she was right there in my personal space, I couldn't think of anything else to do. I took her hand and shook it in a neutral way. "Brandon," she echoed. "What kind of a name is that?" "Just a name," I shrugged. "It's what my parents gave me." "I have ESP," she said. "Great," I said, after giving it a beat, "but really," I gestured to the phone, "and I don't want to be rude, but I've got some business here I have to catch up on." The music hammered us like the tailwind of a jet plane. I glanced out the open door to where a Phaeton was rolling silently by, all its mechanical shrieks and clanks negated by the forward thrust of the music. "You want to play a game?" she asked. "No, I'm sorry." It was then that I began to realize there was another conversation altogether going on here between her and herself. She was muttering, commenting on my comments and her own, maybe even cursing under her breath. She repeated her question, and I shook my head no and went back to my phone, but she wouldn't give it up, just hovered there, holding her private conversation in public. I didn't want trouble, and liberal pussy that I am, I didn't relish being cruel to anyone, no matter how irritating or crazy she might be, so after taking it a moment or 2 longer, I picked up my drink and ambled down to the other end of the bar, choosing a seat between 2 groups of Valentine's Day revelers, men mostly, but a pair of women there too, everybody mutedly raucous ahead of the evening to come. But then, you guessed it, the woman was back, Serena, wedging herself in between me and the guy on the stool beside me, invading my personal space. She said, "I have ESP," and when I didn't react, she said, "You want to play a game?" Angry now, I shoved back the stool, took my drink, and crossed the room to one of the empty booths against the far wall behind the pool tables. If it had been a man harassing me, I could have bluffed or blustered my way out of it, or at least left the place to avoid a confrontation. But this was different. This was a woman. An ESP woman with God knew what kind of mental Ferris wheel spinning round in her head. And I wasn't going anywhere. I was going to finish my drink and have another one, and wait for my wife to come get me. I turned my back on the bar and was hunched over my phone, responding to one of the lame-brained provocateurs on #MoneyMostly, who seemed to exist only to spew insults, when suddenly the ESP woman was back. And here we went again, through exactly the same scenario, word for word, but this time, when I didn't respond, she got upset and kicked the side of the booth so hard it nearly sent my drink flying. At which point, I got up and stalked back to the bar where I summoned the bartender, a heavy-set party girl gone complacent with the delivery of the years. "Look," I hollered over the din, "that woman over there is driving me out of my mind." "I'll take care of it," she said. "You know her? Is she a local?" I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. I felt weak and ashamed of myself. "She turned up here a couple of weeks ago to stay with a friend. Nobody really knows her." At that moment I glanced up, distracted by a disturbance of the light, and there was Nola, poised in the doorway with the sun behind her and a pair of shopping bags dangling from one hand. She came to me, graceful, light on her feet, and smiling with pure pleasure, which wasn't simply the pleasure of seeing me, her husband, but of the invigorating hour she'd spent sifting through the overlooked treasures of an out-of-the-way town. We had a drink. When I looked up again, the ESP woman was gone. Before long, the bartender handed out Valentine's Day balloons, pink for the ladies.